Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a New Year's Eve and Winter Classic edition of Morning Cup of Hockey presented by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. So use our code NATION, NATION in all caps. Nice to see everybody in the chat getting after it early. It's going to be a long, busy day of sports. We got USA Canada tonight also in the World Junior at 8 o'clock. So there's a lot of things to watch tonight. I think there's also, if people in the chat care, I think there's college football playoff too tonight. It's going to be a busy day in the sports world, but we're here to talk about the Winter Classic and talk about the calendar year of 2024 as a whole. But before we do that, I'm going to say hello to my co-host, Colby Cohen. No, Big Willie style. I am not hungover. But Colby, what's up?
You're not?
No. I had a couple glasses of wine and that's it.
I would have thought that you went out and got after it a little bit.
No, I'm responsible. Actually, Merles, Yans, and Witt, and Chris Powers and Grinnell, and other people came into the lobby and were like trying to get me to go to a bar, and I was like, "Nah, guys, I got a show tomorrow, 8 a.m. I can't do it." Discipline.
Wow, you got to learn how to. You got to learn how to play guilty.
I'm not good at it, so I can't do it.
And when just to give you clarification on what playing guilty is, it's when you go out all night, or you go out till 3-4 in the morning, and then you got to get up and play the next day. I played with some guys, and one guy in particular, Brandon Yip. Do you remember that name?
Mm-hmm.
Played for the Avs.
Colorado, right?
Avs, and then Nashville. I can't remember if he played anywhere else. I think he did. He had one other stop, I think, in the NHL, and then he had a long KHL career. He actually just stopped playing. I don't know. He's probably 39 years old, 40 years old at this point. But
Vic was like, I can't even play innocent.
But I got to tell you, Yipper played better when he played guilty, and I knew some guys like that. They just they knew how to rear it up the next morning if they had a long night the night before. I mean,
yeah,
I did it one time early in my American League career. Only time I ever had 2 goals in one game,
really,
down in the American League. It was against Binghamton, the Binghamton Senators at the time, which obviously doesn't even exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We had a pretty long night, and then I was just, again, I played so hard because I was feeling so guilty about going out all night, and was able to get 2 goals that game, which was kind of shocking.
I actually, I was scarred from a young age about drinking before a game, and you'll appreciate this story in our chat will too. I was playing Junior B in 11th grade for Craig DeRemus and Vinny Smith on the Metro Moose, and I went to a Sweet 16 the night before a game on a Sunday against the Titans. Actually, we played the Titans, and I was so drunk at this Sweet 16. I had never drank before a game in my life. And the next day we played the Titans, who weren't a good team in our league at the time. We lost like 8 or 9-1 at home. And not only did Craig make us do like skating after the game, like he like said, if you don't want to be a part of this team, get out now. We had one kid actually take his uniform off and leave and walk out and never come back. But he made us go upstairs, in our full gear, and we didn't skate suicides. We ran them in full gear. We were running in full gear. I was like, oh my God, I'm never drinking again. I can't believe this is the one game I drank before. And like, since that game, I had never had like a sip of alcohol the night before a hockey game.
Well, looking at the chat a little bit, Tommy T, Jeremiah, I agree with you. Listen, as a new parent, well, I guess not super new. It's been a couple of years now. Sobriety is amazing. I mean, I never had, a substance abuse issue or anything like that, but there's nothing worse. Even if you have like a couple of beers or a couple of glasses of wine or a bottle of wine, and you get up and you feel a little woozy, and then you got an Energizer bunny ready to go at 6 o'clock in the morning, which my daughter normally is. Never a good thing. Some other funny comments here in the chat. Joe Albanese is saying white girl wasted.
Yeah,
I mean, look, when Johnny's drinking, he's texting me, and yes, that is exactly how he comes off. Joe Albanese, exactly how you would expect him to be, is how he is. And then I love the Carousel Vertigo comment. I played Junior B in the Met back in the early 80s. So
Yep.
You got some Northeasters around, some people from the tri-state area and some Northeast folks here in the chat. So, Johnny, obviously a little tangent to start the show, but
Yeah.
how are we doing heading into this Winter Classic? Like, I think the biggest thing that I would say that I learned doing Winter Classics and calling them is, yes, the game obviously matters, but it's not, the games don't necessarily have the same sparkle as they used to, but
I disagree.
well, but that, in my opinion,
Mhm.
the actual game when the puck drops, the events leading up to it and
Yeah.
around seem to be getting bigger and better. Like I see everybody who's there. I'm getting all these text messages, and there's all these galas and events and Q&As and the Chicklets live show. And then I saw Jordan Schmaltz did something, and Pat Maroon, by the way, has been on a media tour this week. I'm not going to
Everywhere.
I'm not
Everywhere.
gonna lie. I feel like he's cheating on us a little bit with just about every other show.
No, he's boosting us. He's talking about our show on the other
Okay.
show.
All right.
He's on a promo tour.
Okay, so then that's
Yeah.
good. I'm glad you clarified that. And Lewis C says you guys aren't even a podcast. I mean,
He's
I don't.
one of my best friends. He played D2 ACHA hockey.
Oh, so we've got a club hockey hero in the chat with us today.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get to that
because 6 a.m.
The club. I just want you to know, Louis, in the last podcast rankings, Morning Cup of Hockey was the 4th ranked show in the United States. So I think you should go to the pro shop, pay and get your skate sharpened, buy yourself a couple of rolls of tape, because that's what you do when you play club hockey. And then you can come back to the chat and you can have something to say. But I digress here. The events around the Winter Classic is what is making the Winter Classic, in my opinion, stay relevant and stay really popular. Because again, I look at the matchup of this game, Johnny, and it's really uninspiring. But you are boots on the ground. You've been there for a couple of days. You've been around everybody. You've been taking pictures and schmoozing with the great one, calling him Wayno. Give us a little bit, and I will warn you before you answer this question. If you just tell me it's great, I'm going to dig in and I'm going to ask you for more detail.
Well, before I even give you my answer, let me just give a quick word from our sponsor, Proraso, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care, made in Italy since 1948. Proraso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations. So get 15% off at proraso-usa.com with our promo code hockey15 in all caps, hockey15. And I think the Winter Classic, to me, like, this is my third one working, I guess. I don't know if I didn't attend a Winter Classic as a fan. I went to like one of those Stadium Series games at Yankee Stadium, Rangers Islanders, like back in 2014 or 15. But the players love it. And I think, to me, that is what's really cool too. Like, every single player out there that has their family here. Pat has like 8 family members that are in town. He gets to go on the ice with them. He gets to take in the ballpark with them. It was his first time at Wrigley Field, he said. And, I think seeing that and hearing that and having the players just have something else to look forward to, and not just, another game on the schedule, 1 of 82, I think that makes it a little cool and a little bit more special for them as well. From a fan perspective.
But that was what I was just going to say. This event is about the fans.
Yeah, no, I know. And I was
not about
getting
the
there.
players. It's about the fans.
There. I think for me, it's going to feel different today because it's New Year's Eve as opposed to New Year's Day, where like previous years, you kind of wake up hungover after, a night of partying, whatever you're doing on New Year's Eve. Not everyone parties, but like, New Year's Day is a big day on the couch. And I think today it's almost like more of a celebration because everyone's kind of gearing up for that late night party or whatever everyone has planned later. And I think maybe you'll feel more energy around the game as opposed to like, marinating on the couch and not really being super into it. I mean, and maybe that's just my own perspective, but also, like, when you take into account that there is college football, like last year's game, even the people in Seattle, I would say for the most part, didn't really care because the University of Washington was playing their college football playoff game that same day in the same state. Like, there are so many other things around it that it takes away from the spectacle and just entire like aura that the Winter Classic is. But I do think for people that have their teams involved, it's awesome. And I think this year's matchup, while it's not too exciting to have, the content around it, like there'll be a lot of stuff today, like, Biz playing one-on-one with Bedard yesterday on like a mini rink. There were so many little pieces around it that showcases the players' personalities too, which I think the fans will enjoy also. And I saw a couple comments in the chat talking about like the Road to the Winter Classic show, and that's like an inside look at some of the players' lives, and that stuff's cool too. Like I love that
Yeah,
stuff. I
I
think as
agree.
fans, as just one last point, like as fans, listen, I work in hockey, but I am always a fan to the core because I never played in the NHL. And I think anytime I could feel like I have more inside knowledge about a player or about what goes on, that to me is always the coolest stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I got to be honest with you. I'm looking more forward to USA versus Canada. But look, I do think you
That's
said
different though. That's so different.
You did say one thing that I do want to agree with. Look, I think that I you only, I got to work in the Chicago market for a couple of years through bad teams, but their fan base is incredible. I mean, and I wouldn't say that about every fan base, but they're incredible in Chicago. And I also got an opportunity to learn about St. Louis, because that's obviously a big rivalry, one that I knew nothing about, one that I again, didn't get to witness the heat of it, obviously, because it goes back so far, and they've both been pretty bad the last couple of seasons, or they've been, the Blues haven't been nearly as bad as the Blackhawks. So it is nice to see these two fan bases, which are great fan bases, especially in Chicago. They've endured a lot of bullshit in the last number of years. And they've endured, and I think they continue to endure a lot of bullshit in Chicago. And I think, there's different reasons for that, with people who make decisions, within certain parts of the organization. But, that's great. And they're super passionate. People are going to show up and show out. There's no doubt about that. Wrigley's an incredible place. The Cubs, they know how to put on a spectacle, and they have some involvement in all this, obviously, with it there. And Wrigleyville is really cool. It's really unique.
Sick.
It's like Fenway with all the bars around it, and they've got sluggers where you can go and hit, like literally get in the batting cages while you're drinking, which is a terrible idea. But I just think that the game itself, Johnny, like, it's not interesting to me. It's two bad teams. It's two non-playoff teams. Connor Bedard, yeah, he's playing better, but he hasn't been must-watch TV, right? Like, he's not giving you a reason to go turn on the Blackhawks right now. Although, again, right now, yeah, he's starting to produce again. And that's going to get me to a question that I'm going to ask you here in the next couple of minutes about Connor Bedard. But I'm just way more like, I'm looking at, we're thinking about what we can do with our kids tonight. We're going to take them to, do some maybe fun thing at 5:00 with lights and this and that. And I'm not looking at my phone going, all right, I got to be home for the Winter Classic. I'm thinking I got to be home to watch USA versus Canada. And it's funny because I see Jeremiah back in the chat today, and Jeremiah can maybe answer this in the chat. Can people who don't like, because we're at my house looking at potentially changing to YouTube TV because we're just so sick of Comcast and my internet always sucking and all the money we pay. Like, I got to get a better modem. I'm done with the Comcast modem. I ordered. I got someone coming over to like really wire it up, as I get into my new office here in the next couple of months. I told you we're doing some renovations, but we're thinking about going to YouTube TV, and I'm curious, can you not get NHL Network on YouTube TV? Like, because that's an important channel in our life. Because they to me, they show so many games lately. Like, there's like last night, I think the Rangers game was on NHL Network, right? There's the Rangers Panthers game. So let me ask people in the chat who are YouTube TV people, is there like, can you watch the World Juniors if you're in America without YouTube TV? Can you watch those games that are on NHL Network if you have YouTube TV? Is there a way around that for people? So lay it out in the chat and give me your advice because we need it. What are you laughing at?
I literally pay for Fubo just for NHL Network. Thank God I am wealthy.
It's good to have
Congrats
Singsy
on being
back.
rich.
Singsy's been working. He's been a busy man lately, so we haven't seen him all that much lately.
That's hilarious. But yeah, the last 2 years, Colby, before I moved to this apartment, I had YouTube TV, and I like when I was watching NHL highlights and stuff, I had to watch every single individual game recap. And now, like, it's so nice too for the games that I don't see. I'm able to just flip on NHL Network and watch the highlights every single night, and reruns and stuff like that. But also, for the World Junior games, like last year, I don't think I watched a single World Junior game because I couldn't stream it. I didn't
Right.
know where to stream it. I didn't know how to stream
So,
it.
how much do you
And that's not
guys
a problem
all
for me this year.
how
But
much do you guys all pay Sling just to have NHL Network? Because like I need NHL Network. Be like there's too many important games these days that are getting
yeah.
thrown on that network midweek and on Saturdays that I don't want to get locked out of.
Plus, YouTube TV, at least for me, it didn't have RSNs, so no regional sports network. So I couldn't watch Ranger games on YouTube TV or Knicks
Yeah,
games
but you don't need you you mean so in your
like
home
MSG.
market
No
because
MSG, no
otherwise
home market.
right.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty
RSN also
sure
stands for Regional Sports Network for those who, that's like your home team's cable channel.
yeah. I'll tell you what, the NHL needs to kind of figure that out. I now that I've started looking into this, I can see where I always see Jeremiah's angry tweets about YouTube
Not being able to
TV,
watch. Yeah.
about NHL Network. I mean,
Frustrating.
yeah, I can imagine. And like, because it's just they got to figure that out. They really got to figure that out.
I feel
So
like every NHL game will be on Amazon at some point because the NHL is starting to do a lot more with Amazon. They've done, I think those Monday night shows up in Canada and Thursday night shows as well. And I feel like we're kind of gearing into a relationship. And I say we as if I'm working with the NHL, but the NHL is gearing into a relationship with Amazon. And I see people in the chat saying like the NHL should join Netflix, but I see a guy and his dogs. I'm sure you would love him. Saying I expect NHL to go to Amazon Prime. I agree as well. I think Amazon Prime is going to be the direction they go.
yeah, we'll see. We'll certainly see. So let's wrap this Winter Classic conversation with a big question before we move along. As we know that the Blackhawks are 0-4. They lost Wrigley against Detroit in 2009. They lost against Washington at Nationals Park in 2015. They lost in Busch Stadium 2017, and the Notre Dame against Boston loss, which is actually one that I called. That was awesome. That was really cool. But let me ask you this question. So Bedard has 15 points in his last 14 games, okay, in December. Before that, it was a little bit bleak. Let me ask you this. Do you still see Bedard as a guy who's going to be like a generational superstar talent? Is he trending to be Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, Austin? Like, is he the elite of the elite that we thought he was going to be? Is that kind of how you're seeing him trend?
I said it on Barstool Chiefs show not too long ago. We always make these comparisons to other players, and I think Connor Bedard is like Austin Matthews, but in Jack Hughes' body. Like, if that makes sense, right? Like, I think they kind of move around the ice in a similar way and see the game in a similar way. But Bedard, to his core, will always be more of a scorer than a playmaker, I think. And right now, I think he's forced to be a little bit more of a playmaker. I don't know if guys are finding him in open areas more so than he has to create those open areas for himself. And I think the further on he goes in his career and the more he's surrounded by better players that can create opportunities for Bedard, the more he'll be able to score. But I think Bedard will always be, in that 30 to 40, even 50 goal range. And, he'll be around 90 to 100 points. Like, maybe not this year. But I do think he will be the generational talent that we all think and thought he could be.
Right. Okay. So
Tommy T, that makes no sense. Tommy.
Well, so
I think it makes sense.
I agree with you. Look, none of these guys are one and the same, right? Like McDavid and McKinnon, I would say McKinnon's the closest thing to McDavid, but they're totally different. And then you could say Draisaitl's the closest thing to McKinnon, and they're totally different. And then Matthews and Hughes, like they all are so different in their own ways. Do you remember what Connor McDavid looked like in his second season? I can't remember how he looked in his second season. Like, it just doesn't
He looked
feel
like a kid.
it just
Like,
doesn't
yeah.
feel top of mind. Like, was he taking games over and dominating early in his career? Like, I remember Austin Matthews comes
Yeah.
on the scene and could score at will right away. Like,
Yeah.
right away at will. Now, granted, he was surrounded by better players than Connor Bedard, but like Connor McDavid, he drags his team, you know, into every game. Like,
Look at
he's
Stingsy's comment though. Like Stingsy just said, Bedard has like 95 points in 103 NHL games, and he hasn't even turned 20. You know, like he produces. You know, maybe it's not as flashy as McDavid or as flashy as.
Oh, listen, his goal
might.
scoring, his goal scoring is undoubted. Like, you can't. But the question though is like, Austin Matthews' goal scoring is undoubted, and even now his defensive play is really good. But he's not. Yeah, he's a generational superstar, but he's not a Connor McDavid.
Yeah,
I don't
and
think
there we
he's
go. Jeff Merrick said Connor dominated in season 2. But also something that's interesting too about Bedard, and like I'm not gonna say it's apples to apples because I do think Sid and McDavid and these guys got that attention too. But I do think Bedard is the first of the next generational star to actually come up with the social media like attention. Like McDavid got attention too. Like I remember seeing like Facebook clips and stuff like that, but social media wasn't as big when McDavid was coming up. Where Bedard is like the first of a new generation to actually like have that attention on him from a social media standpoint at such a young age. And so much so that I was talking to Anthony Maroon, Pat's son, yesterday, who's like 16, and he was saying, dude, it's crazy how many cameras are constantly following Connor Bedard.
Yeah.
Like it's actually nuts
like
how much weight is on this kid's shoulders. It's crazy.
We could watch Connor Bedard's highlights
from when he was 12
on Twitter when he was 12, 13 years old. Yeah. You couldn't do that with any of these other guys because it just wasn't as mainstream and it wasn't as big. So that's a good point. So maybe it was built up and built up and built up. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't remember hearing about Connor McDavid as young.
He was like around my age, so like I knew who he was. Like,
right.
Like, but when I was a kid, like we would just like, you know, I would just like see those guys or hear about those guys, and I just like friend them on Facebook, and that's how I'd see their highlights because their own highlights would be on like their own Facebook. Like that doesn't happen anymore. You know?
Yeah. No, look, I here's what I would say. I think it's too early to determine it. If you were making me guess, I would say I probably wouldn't put him like in that Crosby, Ovechkin.
But is Matthews in there? Yeah, probably.
I mean, Matthews, when all said and done, Matthews will probably score more goals than Ovi if you look at the track he's on.
Yeah.
If he stays healthy, which is a big if. Like, I mean, very few guys can score goals the way Ovi scores them at his age. And I don't know. Like, I would say I'm not certain. Like, I wouldn't be wanting to put a bet down on Bedard and like, do I think he will end up in that category? And Vic is letting us know that he thinks he's already missed more games due to injury than Ovechkin, which is even more impressive because Matthews, the pace that he's on is absolutely incredible. And I see you in the chat that Matthews is dealing with some injury right now. He's been a little bit injury prone. But there's no doubting Austin Matthews is, if he stays healthy, he'll beat Ovechkin's goal scoring record if he stays healthy.
I want to challenge Sharma a bit because, like, he said 69 goals last year. Come on, Johnny. Like, when you talk Crosby, Ovechkin, like, I also think about a guy like Stamkos. Like, Stamkos was 40, 50, 60 goal scorer too. But he's not in that conversation. Like, is Matthews leaning more towards like a Stamkos?
No, but I think Matthews. I think Matthews is a much more impactful player, if that's even fair to say. I mean, you're talking about
like
Stammer,
Stamkos is so underrated. He's so underrated when we have those conversations.
He also got Selke votes last year. I mean, like, I know I can be hard on the Toronto Maple Leafs and even Austin Matthews, and I give Vic such a hard time about Austin Matthews literally every day when we're texting. But I think Matthews he's in that generational talent. Oh God, Vic.
But Colby, we talk
but
about
he's
like
in the
all
bottom
these
of
guys,
it.
and
He's in the bottom of it.
why is Stamkos like never there? Like
I
I still
mean,
think Stamkos might be he actually might be the most underrated player ever. Like this guy put up 40 goals last year, 34 the year before that, 42 the year before that in his old age. Like how old is he? Like 35, 34? Like he's not get nearly enough respect.
Yeah,
As like
listen, I don't have a great answer for you other than like that's what my eyes have told me over the last decade. I mean, I'm giving you my opinions here.
Yeah.
I'm not living and dying by the stat sheet. We're talking about a topic, we're talking about questions, and I'm telling you what my eyes say.
Yeah.
And my eyes put Austin Matthews in that category. Even though if let's say there's 5 of them, he's probably at the bottom of the 5, but he's still there.
What would those 5 be?
I mean, I think McDavid, I think Crosby, I think Ovechkin, and then, you look at McKinnon, you put him there,
Kucherov.
And then you probably have Kucherov and Matthews would probably be the group, the generational guys. And then everybody will make all these arguments and say, well, Kucherov had Stamkos and Stamkos had Kucherov and this guy had Point. Well, that's just how it works. And I already saw Ovi had Backstrom, and we didn't even say Makar. I put Makar in there. Yeah. Makar's generational talent.
Yeah.
So it's easy to let the list get bigger and bigger. And I see Leon Draisaitl. Yeah, I mean, listen, but I just thought it was an interesting question as we get in here to Connor McDavid's first ever Winter Classic. Connor Bedard, excuse me. I said McDavid. Will he be the generational superstar? And I did see one person say, well, Celebrini drags his team in. Listen, Celebrini has been incredible. He's going to win the Rookie of the Year, but he's 25, 30 games into his NHL career. I'm not going there yet. I mean, I think he'll get there. He has all the makings to be a Crosby type of 200-foot elite superstar in 3 zones, but we got to give him some more time.
My last question on the Winter Classic, and this is actually from Lewis C in the chat, who's, like I said, one of my best friends. We were talking about it yesterday.
Why are you acknowledging Lewis C in the chat?
Because honestly, he's so fun to argue with. You'd love him. You would love him. But he made a point yesterday, like, I don't know how they do this scheduling wise, maybe 9 months out or something, but the Winter Classic should only be teams that are like in playoff contention or made the playoffs the year before.
Yeah.
Like that should be a set rule of some sort. Because you do have to spread the wealth a little bit. Like, how many times have we seen Chicago in the Winter Classic, Boston in the Winter Classic, Pittsburgh in the Winter Classic? I saw a tweet yesterday. I think it might have been like Elliot Friedman or something, talking about next year or 2 years from now, I guess maybe the last year of Ovi and Sid's contract, giving them the outdoor game as like a farewell. Like I think that'd be cool, like Washington versus Pittsburgh or whoever teams they might be on in that year, to do one last outdoor game. Like that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, look, that's the problem with this game is that it's 2 teams that just don't they're not moving the needle. Like they're going to be big games within their market, and then everybody else is going to be watching the games in their own home markets throughout the evening. And I know that the games there's a little stagger on the NHL schedule tonight. At least that's what I remember when I looked. And then obviously like World Juniors, but I mean, listen, you have 13 games on tonight. Like it's not like this game sits alone, which is probably a good thing. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know how TNT probably doesn't feel great about the fact that, they're playing in a 5 p.m. time slot and let's see the game, there's a 3 p.m. and then there's not games until 8 p.m. So, at least it is insulated. What time is USA Canada?
8 p.m. I believe.
8 p.m. So
this game goes right into that.
Yeah. So look, intrigue. We'll see what happens with Connor McDavid. We'll see if Anders Sorensen, Connor Bedard. I keep doing that. We'll see if Anders Sorensen can kind of get that going.
I'll tell you what, too. The Blackhawks uniforms are crisp.
They look nice. And the St. Louis Blues, like, you know me, I don't usually comment on uniforms. That's usually your thing. I'll tell you what, those St. Louis Blues uniforms are awful. Like
in person, they look a little nicer. They're like because the cream color. I think the cream is pretty cool.
It looks like I created it on WordPerfect with like Comic Sans font. Like it's like a joke. So we think our guy Patty Maroon will get a goal tonight or what?
We're saving that for later, but yeah, that's probably a little hint at the bet of the day.
Okay. What do you think about USA Canada for real quick? Like, what's your feel on that game before we get into some of the more fun parts of the show that we have planned today?
I wasn't able to watch USA Finland, so I don't know how they looked in that game. I haven't been able to watch much of the World Juniors the last couple
days. A lot of bad
days.
penalties. The US took a lot of bad penalties in that game, and Finland's good. Like, if there's one team you don't want to play from behind against, it's Finland. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. Sweden's the same way. Dude, Scandinavian teams don't give you a lot. Like, you have to create opportunities against Finland and Sweden. They will not shoot themselves in the foot very well. You know, so when you're playing from behind against Finland, which they were all game, you're not going to be super successful. And I don't know if you saw the overtime goal. Trey Augustine has not played great. Like, he's not been a superstar that everybody expected.
Has this been the most parity in a World Junior you've seen in a while? I mean, that Latvian team won again yesterday too. Like, I think Jeff and I were texting last night, and I was like, "We're all Latvians. Like, we're kind of pulling for Latvia." It seems like everyone around the world.
I don't know. That's probably a better question for Jeff in our chat. If he thinks that this is the most parity, he's covered these tournaments a hell of a lot closer than any of us have. I've never actually covered it. I usually just watch it. But yeah, Jeff said it. Augustine's glove, like, he's been weak. And listen, Canada has had a hard time scoring, and all the talk has been about, you know, Misa not being there, and was it Seneke that's not there, and then also that kid Zane Parake. I might be butchering these guys' names, but you know who I'm talking about. All these star players that got left off this Canadian team. Martone hasn't played a lot. His minutes have been low. McKenna's minutes haven't been that high, and he seems to create more offense. So it's been weird. And you know, the US, like, they've had a hard time defending. Like, they haven't been great. And Augustine hasn't been the one bailing them out. And Vic is reminding me that you know, that Schaefer, the defenseman for Canada, who, by the way, looks like a stud. Like, that kid, Schaefer, I'm picking him first overall. And I don't know if this injury will hurt his chances to go first overall with the broken collarbone. No Henry Muse. They probably wish they had Henry Muse right now. I'll tell you that much. I heard some interesting stuff about Henry Muse for next season, actually. But, you know, I think that Canada's they're having a hard time offensively. And I saw old videos. Andrew Shaw reposted this video, and it came up on my timeline of Marcus Foligno just like running around, absolutely running guys through I mean, those hits, even though they're all clean, would all be called 5-minute majors, and you'd be thrown out of the game now. Like, IIH refs they call big hits 5-minute majors, even if they're clean, because they're just incapable of doing a good job. I mean, they prove that year in and year out.
Also, just to kind of put a bow on this World Junior stuff, is there any doubt that Canada needs this game more than the US? Like 1,000%, right?
Yeah, because it's the World Juniors in Canada, of course. They always need it more than the US.
Yeah.
This is like just bragging rights for the US. And I hope the US wins, but in the grand scheme of things, like, you have a World Junior in Canada. Like, unfortunately, these guys lose this game tonight, they're all getting death threats on social media. Like,
which is nuts. They're just kids.
Which is insanity.
They're just kids.
Yeah, like, Jeff in the chat is backing me up on the IIH refs. They do. They call results. Like, you watch the IIH referees, they'll call the result of a play, not what actually happened. And I don't know if that's timing. I don't know if that's just, you know, being incapable. I don't know if it's because a lot of them ref overseas, and that's kind of how it goes overseas. But you know, that will happen in this game tonight. There will be a big clean hit that gets called because the result is a booming thump or potentially an injured player, and it'll end up being either 5 in a game or whatever. And then the last thing I'll say, Johnny,
I got one more thing actually on the World Junior, but
Go ahead. Yeah, go.
Well, no, finish your thought, and then it's a new
Well, I
thought.
was just going to say, I see everybody now talking about Schaefer, the defenseman.
Yeah.
And I had said, I don't know if this hurts him going number one overall. Like, you look at the guys who could all potentially go number one overall, and I just saw that the draft is going to be in LA. So I don't know, maybe you and I will be at the draft. Obviously, last year's draft went well.
Yeah.
It's going to be different this year, though, because it's decentralized.
Yeah, but
so
the players will still be there.
Yeah, only some. Like a small amount of players will be there.
I don't think it changes for the players. I think it just changes for teams like upper management. I just don't think there's pressure on those guys to go.
Right, but I don't think they're going to invite as many players like they do because, like, again, I don't know, the NFL doesn't bring that many players to the draft, right? That's just
first rounders, I think.
Well, it's just decentralized. People they know are going to go in the first round. And the last thing, two things here. Schaefer is who I would pick number one overall. Even seeing him briefly in this World Junior tournament reconfirms that. And I think that he's the closest thing to a surefire NHLer as any of those top players, whether it's Misa, Hagens, go through that list of 4 or 5 guys. They're all probably NHLers, but to me, Schaefer's the guy who's going to be an NHLer and going to be a star defenseman. And the other comment I want to hit from Glenn Heffron in the chat, who we know is the commissioner of the United States Hockey League. And he said, I believe it's the IIHF standard, call the major review and then downgrade it if necessary. How about just like call it right the first time? I mean, I get it. Like
Glenn.
No, like Glenn's not like he's telling us what
I know.
He's giving us good information here, but like just get it right the first time. Do a good job. Be in position. If you need help, ask your line mates or your other referee. But like quit calling big hits penalties for no reasons, Johnny.
Yeah, no, I agree. The last thing I just wanted to ask the chat. I mean, I assume everyone is from North America. I saw Jim the Swede asking everybody where they're from, but not to put you on the spot, but I'm curious what the chat thinks too, because it is USA Canada tonight on New Year's Eve. And that was always a thing for me when I was younger. Like these two teams always played on New Year's Eve. It was like something I always looked forward to. When I was like 12 to 16, 17, before I was like, going to parties and stuff, I would like sit on the couch and watch these games with my family friends and my dad and stuff like that. But do you have a favorite USA Canada World Junior game or a game that stands out? Like there have been so many good ones. Like the outdoor game in Buffalo was so sick. The game that you were a part of, the Tavares hat trick, was one of the first ones I remember. The gold medal game, the gold medal game where Eberle scored 2 goals late and then Carlson wins it.
First one that I can really remember and like really I'll never forget, and it's because I knew Rob Shrimp from being in Syracuse, was when he played in the World Juniors. Like that was my first ever connection to World Juniors because I knew him. And again, World Juniors was not a big thing. It wasn't a thing here. Like we were still watching hockey on Outdoor Life Network. Remember?
I didn't know what it was, but my parents bought me the NHL Network.
That's what I'm saying. So I remember the biggest one that I remember, like the first vivid one I remember because Rob Shrimp, and I remember seeing the last name Bork and being like, oh, Ray Bork has a son. Oh, wait, BU? Like, oh, wow. Like, and that's when I started to kind of realize like, oh, I was heading to college hockey. I was starting to get recruited that year because I was playing in Syracuse that year. Rob Shrimp helped me get on the Syracuse junior team before I went to the national team. So those were kind of like my early memories of it, but I don't have this like deep rooted history of knowing about the World Juniors because like when we were kids, like it just wasn't, it really wasn't, especially where I grew up. Hockey was not big where I grew up. It's gotten bigger, right? But it's not a hotbed, right? I'm from Villanova, Pennsylvania. Like Villanova has club hockey. They don't have Division I hockey. They don't have,
don't get into this again. I don't need more text from Lewis.
They don't have real hockey.
I was gonna say my favorite game, which I think gets lost in the shuffle a bit, is the gold medal game. I think it was 2017 USA Canada in Montreal. It was when the U.S. erased like 2 separate 2-goal deficits. Like Fox, McAvoy, Kiefer Bellows. I think they won it in a shootout, which I still think is the dumbest thing that a gold medal game can go to a shootout. It was the same year as Troy Terry, but Troy Terry did it in the semifinal against Russia.
Yeah.
So that team, like that
But
team in that game,
do you
that
think
game was
they should go to 3-on-3 in overtime?
yes.
Like, well, how do you think they should be settled?
3-on-3 is like the best thing that has happened to hockey in the last 20 years. Like I
Is it
love
though
3-on-3
still
so much.
though? Is it
I still think
still?
it is. I still
See,
think it
I
is.
think it kind of sucks now. I think everybody's ruined it with listen, I think it's kind of ruined 3-on-3 in my opinion.
What's ruined it? You think 3-on-3 is what?
I think
What's ruined
3-on-3 has kind of turned into this, like, you're just constantly regrouping and recircling. You don't always see teams attack now 3-on-3. I guess in my opinion, I think if you're gonna do like in the gold medal
I think
game,
World Juniors was 4-on, like when Carlson had that goal, it was 4-on-4 for 20 minutes.
my opinion here is that it should be a sudden death overtime. First 10 minutes should be 5-on-5, and then maybe the next 10 minutes should go 4-on-4. And like that, that's I don't like 3-on-3 I think 3-on-3 and I think a shootout are the same thing if you're picking a gold medal or you're winning a big tournament or like I don't know, man. I'm a fan of sitting on the edge of my seat during an overtime that's like 5-on-5, like in a playoff game, and you're just like every time something happens, you're like, I don't know, like 3-on-3. I just think that it's gotten a little bit boring. That's all I'm saying. I really do. There's some great ones, but I don't love it as much as I did when it first happened, and everyone was just riverboat attacking.
I still love 3-on-3, but I've always said too, and this is like definitely one of my dumber thoughts that would never happen, but I would like to express it anyway. Doing like 10-minute 4-on-4, getting into 5-minute 3-on-3, 3-minute 2-on-2, and then
that's what they did when we were kids.
If there's still no goal, then it's 1-on-1 until someone scores.
Yeah, I mean that's what they did when we were kids. Did that ever happen to you when you were a kid?
Not in like real ice hockey. I did it in like lacrosse. They have this thing called Braveheart, right? Like it's a 1-on-1 face-off, and you just like go up and down 1-on-1. It's like the craziest thing ever. And then I think I did it in like a roller hockey tournament once, but never in like a real ice hockey game.
I remember in an ice hockey tournament when I was a peewee, and we got down to 2-on-2 in like a Labor Day tournament or something like that. And I still remember it. I was probably 10 years old or something like that. So, all right, let's go to the Twitter rap thing, Johnny. Look, maybe you want to explain to people what Twitter Wrapped is. I had no idea until you sent it to me and said you need to do this. Maybe you can explain to everybody what this is.
So I think most people would know what a Spotify Wrapped is. Like basically Spotify your data from the entire year and tells you like what your most listened to song was, most listened to artist was, and they essentially like provide you with how much time you spent listening to music and what you were listening to and whatnot. So Twitter did like a Twitter Wrapped this year, and my friend Anna Dua sent it to me, and like she sent hers and how accurate hers was. So Twitter basically just like comes up with a narrative about what you tweet, how you tweet, and the tone that you tweet in. And Colby and I shared ours with each other. And, after you guys have listened to us for a year and you see us on Twitter and whatnot, you kind of understand our tones. And these were so beyond accurate and so funny that like Colby was making fun of me. I was making fun of him. Vic's were pretty funny too, honestly. Vic sent us his, but we wanted to share them with you guys because we think they're super accurate and super funny. So I don't know who Vic wants to put up first. This is me. So this is like,
so let me
read mine. You read mine.
So I'll read Johnny's. So basically you put in your username and it gives you, like Johnny said, it's like AI probably. It has some sort of formula and it puts together, and there's different sections, and the roast section of Johnny's was really funny. I'll read a couple of them. You get more excited about hockey fights than a 5-year-old at Disney World. Your obsession with Matt Rempe is reaching restraining order levels. I would add Alexis Lafreniere to that.
That was a bad one.
Your Twitter feed is basically the Rangers group chat that went public. Also true. You're more dramatic about hockey than a teenager writing fan fiction. That is my favorite one. My guess, Johnny, if we didn't tell people whose this was, they could have guessed that it was yours.
Well, obviously that's not yours. But yeah, that last one, I'm more dramatic about hockey than a teenager writing fan fiction. That one you're going to use for a while, right? Like I quoted it on Twitter. I think it was to Pat Micheletti, he like said something about me being dramatic, and I was like, well, according to my Twitter Wrapped, it's very on brand.
I will be using that quite often.
Yeah, no, it was good. So now let's get to yours, because yours I think is pretty hilarious too. This is Colby's friendly roast. You tweet like you just got hit in the head with a puck, buddy. Your opinions are like a bad penalty call, totally unnecessary, and always controversial. You think you're the voice of hockey, more like the loudest guy in the penalty box. So fucking funny.
Oh man.
Excuse me. Yeah,
you all right over there?
The water. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
So we thought those were pretty funny. We wanted to share with you. Obviously, a lot of you have now been with us coming up on our 1-year anniversary show, which is January 2nd. We started this show just about 12 months ago. We're a couple hours, a couple days away from that 1-year mark. Singsy said it was a tick too kind to me. Maybe some truth to that, but there's some other. It got me pretty hard on a couple of other ones. I think it gave me as my twin. It said I was like Gary Bettman.
The Twitter twin. Yeah,
Twitter twin. And the only thing that I would say would be the same about Gary Bettman and I would be that, I think a lot of people don't like either of us. So that's probably what Gary Bettman and I share in common. It was like when Gary Bettman goes up to do anything, they boo him. Anytime I spoke on television in Chicago, people would be at home booing me to their TV. So that's probably the most that we have in common. Yes, we are both members of the tribe, Singsy. That was the low-hanging fruit. But certainly some good funny stuff. I don't know. Was there anything else we were going to show from that or no, from the Twitter app?
I think Vic had some other stuff. I'm not sure if we wanted to show it, if it was just for our own amusement. But I guess he can kind of chime in and say that, this is yeah, he wanted to do this. This is funny. You can read this one, Colby.
Johnny, you're on Santa's nice list. You've been spreading joy through the hockey coverage all year. Even when you roast players or plays, you do it with heart. Plus, anyone who gets Artemi Panarin to smile that much deserves a spot on the nice list. I don't understand.
Well, you're on the naughty list. I gotta read yours. You're on Santa's naughty list. You're definitely on the naughty list. Your spicy and controversial opinions keep things interesting, but they also ruffle some feathers. You love to stir the pot, and that's what makes you fun. It's very true. I think both are pretty accurate. Yeah.
And Zach Anderson has corrected me, which I appreciate. It's not just Chicago where they booed me when I was on TV. Philly did too.
Yeah, but Jason T said not all of us booed you in Chicago.
Yes. Hey, listen, you could probably count them on one hand. There were a couple. Appreciate it, Jason. There were a couple. But yes, I guess at times I can be quite controversial with what I have to say.
Why wasn't it that you were booed in Chicago, though? Like, you talk about it all the time, but I don't know if you really gotten into detail about it. If you don't mind, I don't know. Like, you don't have to.
Look, I think, you bring somebody into a market that nobody knows. They've never heard of you. They don't know who you are. And at the same time, you're pushing out two of the best broadcasters and most well-loved broadcasters. And again, like, you go in there and you have to like sit in for Eddie Olczyk when he's on the road, and then they push Eddie out. And then they start forcing you on people. And it just, listen, it was a lose-lose situation, and you also have a bad team, and fans get angry when you have a bad team. So it wasn't a good fit. You know what I mean? It really wasn't. Look, I didn't, when I got hired by the Blackhawks, I didn't know anything about the Blackhawks. Like, I obviously I knew the basic stuff, and I don't know their history. I'm not from Chicago. And you just bring some guy in and you just drop him in front of everyone. And then they put me on every single show, the night of when the reports came out about all of the Kyle Beach stuff, nobody would work. So I had to do the color and I had to do intermissions. I was running back and forth between the booth and between the intermission set, doing both because nobody would work. Like, none of the people that were scheduled to work that night would do the game because nobody wanted to go on TV that night. Somebody had to do it. And then you have Pat Foley, who I worked with, who, again, I've said this before, one of the most unfriendly people I've ever worked with. And the first broadcast I ever did with him, he literally wouldn't speak to me on the broadcast. I literally kept addressing him and was basically talking to myself the entire time. So, it never got off on a good foot. It didn't go well in the middle. It didn't go well on the end. And so they made a change, right? That's what happens in those situations. And listen, they've made a number of changes there. And listen, they shot themselves in the foot. Like, they should have done everything they could to keep Eddie Olczyk happy and in his seat in Chicago. Like, it was just completely mismanaged. And then they brought in a play-by-play guy who didn't know anything about hockey, right? And then they had to fire him and bring in, like, it was just all very, very mismanaged. And I got along with the fans that I would meet face to face, and people were actually really friendly and like so nice face to face. And that was the same in Philly when I would walk around the concourse or go to a game, like, not working. People are always great face to face, so that's always it's always interesting how social media versus face to face goes. So that was kind of my tenure in Chicago, and that's how I know Kyle Davidson so well. And him and I became friends before he was the GM. Like, he was still the assistant general manager, and we were both 33-year-old guys. Our wives were pregnant at the same time. We were able to bond over that. And to Kyle's credit, like, he taught me a lot. Like, he'd let me sit in his office and pick his brain. And like, I learned so much about the way hockey ops work and how scouting departments work and how reports are filed and how they're evaluating players. Like, I got like an internship in hockey ops while I was in Chicago, which was my favorite part of Chicago. Like, that was like one of my favorite parts of that job, was the access that I had to those guys. And the coaches were the same way. They were unbelievable. Derek King was there for a year as the head coach, was unbelievable. Him and I would go out and play golf, and I would just pick his brain. Like, it was unbelievable, the access. So that was far and above the best part of Chicago for me, was having all that stuff. The broadcast just didn't, it just didn't work out, right? Like, it wasn't the right fit for them. It wasn't the right fit for me. My wife hated, she wanted to be back in this area. So did I. This is where we're from. So that's why I still, may not care for certain individuals within the organization, but I want the Chicago Blackhawks and I want Kyle Davidson to be successful. And I want that team to turn it around. I think Danny Wirtz wants to have a good team and cares about having a good team and is willing to put the money where it needs to be. And I think Rocky was the same way in order to have a good team and have resources. So, that's, you asked, and that's the long and short of it.
I think everyone appreciates you sharing that. I think for me personally, I know you personally, obviously, and I've heard you talk about it here and there, but not really in full detail like that. And now, we're coming up on a year, people start to understand who we are and what we try to represent and stuff. And I think it's nice to get to know you on a deeper level in that sense of what you went through in Chicago. Like, you talk about it all the time here. So it's good that you got into detail about it.
Well, we also have a lot of new listeners. I mean, and people get really dialed in on their home markets. Like, you don't always know what's going in in the other markets. Now you have more of an idea because of ESPN Plus, but like, you didn't used to be able to just be like, oh, I want to watch Sam Rosen tonight. Oh, I want to watch this guy tonight.
I don't even know who Chicago's play-by-play guy was before you went in there. I don't even know who their like legendary broadcaster was.
You wouldn't and the only reason
I'd watch for NBC or like
exactly where you're just getting Doc or Kenny or Eddie and those guys, right? So we'll cap it at that, Johnny, as we move our way through the show. I think we wanted to give out a couple of
player of the year.
Awards. Yeah, player of the year.
I don't know if we could do all of them. Maybe just
no, I think we just do team and player.
Yeah.
And then we do our bet, and then we wish everybody a great New Year's Eve. Like, not a lot of people are operating today, right? Like, but we thought it was important to be here with you guys. We try to bring you guys content all the way through Christmas. And honestly, if it wasn't for all you in the chat consistently coming, we probably would have taken this week off. Like, the network gave us the opportunity to take these days off. And so, we said, you know what, our audience has been coming out in full force lately. and growing so rapidly that we want to make sure that we're here with you guys, and we're not going to miss days as much as we can, and obviously we'll be off tomorrow. We'll do a show Thursday, and then I'm hopping on a plane to Maine. We'll have Pat Thursday, which will be great. So we'll get his account of the Winter Classic. That's what we got. So Johnny, you want to start team or player of the year?
Vic goes, even I didn't take a vacation.
Yeah. Well, and the other show that's cruising along right now, obviously at the World Juniors, is the Sheet. So it's been really cool to see some of the different voices, and like you can't prop. Yes, Jeremiah, I'm doing Maine against Denver on Saturday or Friday. John Butchergross and I will be doing that game. So one thing you have to give credit to when it comes to World Juniors. Jeff has been great hosting the coverage, but man, Steven Ellis is a machine.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to have to get him on for like a post World Junior wrap. He's been on a ton on the sheet with Jeff, and like the amount of information that he has in his brain is insane about these kids. It's literally insane.
Yeah, he's my go-to for prospects. Like, he's the first person I look up when I want to know anything about these World Junior players. He really does know everything. What are you laughing at?
I'm laughing at Big Willie Styles says Steven Ellis is a World Junior nerd. That is probably the nicest thing. It is probably the nicest thing you could say about Steven Ellis, right? That is his baby. I mean, he owns the prospect space. The guy watches games in the third league in Sweden in like January. He sees hockey all over the world in ways that like people don't even realize exists.
And I want to thank Glenn too. Glenn just made a nice comment about our show coming up on a year. But let's move in, Colby, let's do player of the year first, because I already see a couple comments about it has to be Matthew Tkachuk. Are we taking playoffs into account? We are, right? Like, playoffs are separate from
we're talking about
January, December. It doesn't matter what kind of.
We're talking about January 1st to 2024 to December 31st, 2024. So,
right.
So there's you still have a little more than 12 hours to become player of the year. But for us, we're picking it now.
Mine is like, you asked me before the show and I said I wasn't going to tell you because it's so hard to like not chalk this, but I really do. I can't say it's anyone other than Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
I thought what Connor McDavid did in the playoffs, to also, like, maybe to some it's not as big of a deal, but to me, I think beating a Wayne Gretzky record in the playoffs, most assists ever in the playoffs, dragging that team back into the fight, down 3-0 in the final, and doing it even in the start of the year, right? Like,
what about
January was when
season?
Yeah. They started off rough both years, and he drags them back in. And like, what this guy does is unlike any other athlete. Maybe like LeBron, but
he's done it
this
at
guy
times in his career. He has
dominant. Like,
I'm not a LeBron guy, but I'll say it.
I like LeBron.
What he's done at times in his career, for his teams, it's on that level.
Yeah, but I had a hard time. I wanted to be a little bit creative and off the board, but I had a hard time going outside of Connor McDavid.
It's reality is reality. Connor McDavid is on another level, and you look at what he does though. Like January, February, March of last year, April, May of last year, like when the games get really hard, this guy goes up another level. And the Panthers were a better overall team, right, than Edmonton. And what did Edmonton do? They dragged them to the final minutes of a Game 7. And it's hard not to pick him as player of the year. It really is. Like, it just
and Tkachuk, if I was picking a Panther, I'd be picking Barkov over Tkachuk.
Like, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't?
I wouldn't. But
I thought Barkov last year was like.
But listen, that leads us into our team of the year, because my guess is that we both have the same team of the year, and that's the Florida Panthers.
These are so big, like it's so hard to not be basic with these, but like, you can give, I'd say like there should be love for Kaprizov, but like, no playoff really there for Kaprizov, right? Like there was nothing from April to June, right? Like you have to give credit for the playoffs. The playoffs are so much harder than what has to be done in the regular season. And I'm not discrediting what Kirill Kaprizov does, but you have to take that into account.
You do. It's part of the year.
Yeah.
In my opinion, you have to take it more into account. I always say playoff games have a heavier weight than regular season games. Okay.
Yeah.
Look, the Florida Panthers won a Stanley Cup. They in a year last year where everybody thought they were taking a step back because of how banged up their back end was to start the year. And look how they got through the playoffs. Look at the teams that they beat. I think the Rangers were ahead of them in the standings at that point and had home ice in that series.
Mm-hmm.
Boston is always a tough out. I think that they've continued this year to be really good. I mean, I think they're sixth in the National Hockey League. I have the standings handy here, so let me look. They're sixth in the National Hockey League. At home they're 11 and I mean they've been really consistently good and they're floating right around where they need to be. And look, you could say Winnipeg's number 1 right now in the standings, Vegas 2, Jersey 3, Washington 4, Minnesota 5, Florida 6. Like, look, I think any of those 6 teams, I could see winning a cup right now. Other than, I'd say 5 of the 6 teams. The way Minnesota, I don't think Minnesota is a true contender right now. But Florida's a contender to win again.
Like Tommy's saying, these are two different seasons you're comparing, but they're in the same calendar year. We're talking about
January about 1. Year though, Tommy. Yeah,
January 1 to December 31.
That's what we're talking about. We're talking
about parameters are different. Yeah, it is. That's the point of the conversation.
Yeah, we're not talking about both seasons. We're talking about 2024. 2024. So that's where we're at. We agree. We don't often agree.
Tommy, we know it makes no sense, but that's how this is working.
It does make sense. I
like Tommy's passion, so I want to answer him. I like his passion.
Yeah, listen, no, I think it does make sense, Tommy. We're putting a parameter in place, and that to us it makes sense. This is how we wanted to look at it. We wanted to look at it for 2024, and next year we'll look at it for 2025, right? And maybe Connor Bedard will stay on a tear point wise and he'll still be on a bad team. And we'll call him player of the year next year, even though because of the calendar year. So that's how we're looking at it. And D White, I see Winnipeg and Minnesota have no chance of winning the Cup in 2025. I would say Minnesota probably would agree. I don't know though. Winnipeg, Tommy T, I love it. I love when Tommy T gets fired up. I do. Yeah. I love it. It's good for the show. It's good for the show. We need to figure out a call-in function on our show. I do think we got to eventually evolve to somewhere where we could do a quick call-in function where when one of our chat teammates are losing their shit and they're fired up, we can get them on for a 30-second hit. That's something we got to look into.
I would do that once a month if that's something you're up to. That's just sharing the link publicly. Maybe in our chat, we share the StreamYard link and people can just be in the waiting room and Vic can bring.
I think it might be a situation where we just share it to the. We got to talk about this offline and potentially try to figure it out. So we decided.
Mouse says get Dwayne from Buffalo on. Oh well, I'm actually friends with Dwayne, and he'd probably be a perfect guy to have on here. If you know who that is, it's the guy who left that 5-minute voicemail in Buffalo that went viral. It was 5 years ago, but I think it resurfaced because Chicklets played it.
I didn't.
It's hilarious.
I didn't know. So I think that's kind of it. Oliver's making an appearance on the show today. Hi, buddy. Mm-hmm. I've been saying you're like a golden retriever lately, and now Oliver just made his morning Cuppa hockey debut.
No, he's been on here before.
Oh, he has been on Morning Cuppa Hockey. I know he's been on DFO Live a bunch of times. I think
he's been out here before.
And I know he's been on Oilers Nation a bunch of times. But I didn't know that he's actually been on. I know you guys have heard him on Morning Cup before, but I didn't know that he's actually come on. It's our last show of the year. You want to come up and say hi? Come on, buddy. So Johnny, let's get to Bet365 because we're obviously pounding our boy.
Well, did you just see the text we just got?
Yeah, Nate just texted us, Nate Thompson, and said, John, you're not my friend. Don't text me.
John.
John. Everybody's calling you John now. Like I feel so seen about that.
You started a trend. Congrats. You started a trend.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, let's go into Bet 365. Our bet of the night. We're going to be rooting for none other
Easy,
than
Dylan.
our friend of the show, Pat Maroon, anytime goal scorer at plus 750. Pat was fired up. He was pissed about how the team has played the last couple games. You know, they came out and lost, I think, 5-1 to Dallas at home the other night. Had a tough go in Buffalo on the 27th. So, you know, Pat's fired up to play today. He's got a lot of family in the stands. His first Winter Classic, his fourth outdoor game. And he's fired up. So we're rooting for Pat today. And I actually do have a Bleacher Report open skate that I do, that little content series with them. I did a skate with Pat and with Jordan Cairo that will both be dropped today. So look out for those two because those are pretty fun. Pat was hilarious. I actually, Colby, I was
you did it with Pat? You did it?
Yeah, I did it with Pat.
Oh, wow. That was probably, did you guys talk about our show?
Not in the no.
Yeah. You got to learn how to promote our show when you're on other people's shows.
But that's like my own, like it's another series. It's separate.
All right.
Everything's separate. But
all right.
Something funny happened in it. There is a blooper in it, and I'll just let you guys wait it out till it comes out. But
all right. So
yeah.
Last thing I want to do tonight or do today for our show.
Wait, what did you say that everyone's saying pounding your boy?
I said we're gonna pound our boy tonight and bet, like, meaning like we're going heavy and betting heavy on our boy, like, and everybody's freaking out. Dylan was the first one on it. Now everybody's freaking out. So look, here's the next thing I want to say, because I just want to drop a little World Junior like bet on this today, because we do have a lot of US and a lot of Canada that are here with us every day. Oh God, Sharma, don't go there. But what is the bet with Vic? Because like there has to be some there has to be some sort of bet for this game tonight, USA versus Canada, with Vic, right? I mean, Vic is our producer. Vic lives in Toronto. Very proud Canadian. Jeff Merrick is another very proud Canadian, and I know Jeff would love to see a gold for his boys, but you know, you can't, you got to get through this game first. So what do we think the right bet is for Vic? How about this? If Canada wins, Johnny, you'll shave your head. And if the US wins, Vic has to wear who's the biggest rival to the Toronto Maple Leaf? Who's their biggest rival? The Detroit? Is it
themselves?
Detroit?
I don't know.
First round of the playoffs?
I would say if I'm shaving my head, which I'm not doing, by the way.
Oh, you're not? What do you mean? That was the bet.
What, you don't have to do something?
No, of course not. I'm older.
Well, then Vic, I would want Vic to have to clean shave his beard every day for a month.
Okay. All right.
So he's bald head, bald face for a month. He's just an egg.
Okay, Vic, can you agree to that? He doesn't have to agree. We're laying this bet on him. I think Vic should have to wear a Boston Bruins.
No,
Vic's
actually,
gonna have
we should. I'll do a bet. I think I'll bet for this game, like winner. Like if USA wins, Vic Venmos me like $50 for a round of drinks for New Year's Eve, and if Canada wins, I'll send him $50 for.
That's not fun. I'd rather it be more embarrassing where Vic has to like wear a Bruins jersey or a Marchand jersey like for like a month.
Who's buying it? You're easy to make.
I'll buy it. I'll buy it. No problem.
Right.
I'll no problem.
All right, rich boy.
I'll buy a knockoff jersey on Amazon. It'll cost less than your drinks tonight.
Vic, go send me a Cohen Bruins jersey.
I only have one, and it's
Joshua Leifer says Johnny wears a Jack Hughes jersey. I would do that by choice. I love Jack Hughes, my favorite player.
Yeah, Johnny's a total closeted Islanders Devils fan. So, all right, look, great show today, Johnny. I'm glad we did it. I know when we signed on this morning, we were like, wait, we're doing a show today, but people were here. The Twitter stream was buzzing. YouTube chat was buzzing. Give us a like on the episode if you're still here with us. I tell you guys this all the time, but like, it's literally the difference between our advertisers being happy and unhappy, because the more you guys like it, the more it bumps the algorithm, and the more advertising we earn. And then that's how you can just assure yourselves that we'll continue to be back, because, hey, we're heading into a contract year now, Johnny. As of tomorrow, the first of the year, it's a contract year for us. And this time we're hoping for a multi-year deal, but it's a contract year. So it's time to play like John Tavares and Mitch Marner in a contract year. It's time to show up like John Tavares is in his contract year. So, give us the likes, subscribe to the Daily Face-Off YouTube page. We're only going to get bigger and better here. We appreciate everything that you guys do for us. We hope that you guys love all the hockey on today. We really do. I mean, hopefully the Winter Classic is not a snoozer. Hopefully USA Canada. I mean, listen, the best thing I could say for USA Canada, a 5-4 game with some massive hits, physical, like get the crowd into it, get the crowd out of it, like back and forth where like the building's shaking 1 second and then it's like a pin drop the next second. That's what Canada and World Juniors is all about, because they kill it. They absolutely kill it there in Canada, the way that they show up for this tournament. So I'm excited for it, Johnny. Happy New Year to you, pal. I'm glad you're having a great time. Vic said my New Year's resolution should be to be nicer to you. I disagree, because I am nice to you.
You've been really nice. Yeah, you've been really nice.
Last night, I was giving Johnny compliments left and right in our group text, and he had to ruin it, obviously, by responding in a weird way. That's what he does.
Couple glasses of wine.
I knew that. You were white girl wasted, as the guys said earlier in the chat. But look, everybody be safe. Have a great time. Have a great night. You can go, Johnny. I'll let you say Happy New Year's to everyone. But honestly, we just want everyone to know, everybody who downloads our show, everybody who comes to our chat, everybody who watches, everybody who listens, everybody who criticizes, everybody who has an opinion, who fights with us, who DMs us. Honestly, it's what makes our show what it is. And we really couldn't appreciate it more. I was actually laughing yesterday reading some of the reviews on Apple Podcasts, which I've never done before.
Oh, I didn't even know they have that.
There's not a ton of them, but like they're funny, man. People are just like, I hate Colby. I can't listen to him. I turn it off halfway through, and it's like, but I still appreciate the fact that there's enough emotion to go and leave a review. Even if you hate me and what I have to say, I appreciate the review, and we appreciate that you come to watch the show just to hate me even more.
Well, I think you were on a tear of being emotional and being, I guess, very, very gratuitous. That's a word, right? Gratuitous?
Yeah.
But no, like, I just wanted to echo, too, just one last hockey thing. I saw Jeremiah put it in. It's Cam Fowler's 1,000th game today.
Oh, wow. Good for him. I didn't see that.
First player to ever do it in an outdoor game. So that's pretty cool. I'm sure that'll be highlighted on the broadcast also. But yeah, I just wanted to echo what you said. Like, we love you guys. It's been awesome. To do this every day. Like it's a dream. And, being here in Chicago at the Winter Classic, like being around a lot of cool people that I looked up to, it kind of makes you like pinch yourself and remind yourself that you're in this, and that this is kind of something that I always dreamed about, that I never thought would be possible. And, Colby played in the NHL. My dream was always to get to the NHL somehow. And doing this route, going this way, was the only way I could see myself doing it. And it's because of, you guys that we are able to do it. So, did
you ever think we'd be doing this when you sent me that DM on LinkedIn 8 years ago or whatever it is now, 7 years ago?
Honestly, like, I don't know. I thought we'd definitely do something together. So like, cause I'm not going to sit here and say like, we kind of hit it off right away. I thought, no.
Yeah, of course we did.
Yeah. So I thought for sure we'd have some sort of relationship in hockey one way or another, whether it was just as friends talking about college hockey or like, obviously I dreamed of doing big things, but like, I always thought there'd be a friendship there. Doing a show together, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, listen, it's been cool. So coming up on 1 year, I'm sure we'll say the sappy stuff for January 2nd. But one thing I also will say, if you are going out tonight, do not drink and drive. Like, we got to stress that too. But yeah, love you guys. Colby, I'll give you the final word because you're better at this than I am.
I think that was great. Listen, everybody enjoy their night, enjoy their New Year's, enjoy the games. Hopefully, kind of jealous. You got to think for Jeremiah out in Alaska, the games for him are going to start at like 10 a.m. and he's just going to have hockey all night. Like, what a legend. He gets to live out there in Alaska, and he's going to literally get to watch hockey wire to wire today. So again, we love y'all. We appreciate you. Happy New Year's to everyone. Enjoy the games. Go USA. Got my USA hat on. And let's hope for some fireworks tonight. And we will see everybody back live Thursday morning for our 1-year anniversary show. Have a good one, everybody.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.